The roars of the crowd filled the domed arena, a cacophony of alien languages blending into a frenzy of bloodlust. The Zaraki, a predatory insectoid species with glistening carapaces and jagged mandibles, ruled over this brutal spectacle, and they reveled in the carnage. The twin sons of Zerado's prime cast sharp, angular shadows across the arena sands, illuminating every brutal swing and every bloodied contestant. Liam Calvert, the lone human in this nightmare, stood at one end of the arena. Clad in battered armor scavenged from past victims of the games, he gripped a crude vibroblade, its hum barely audible over the raucous crowd. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from defiance. Liam had been captured during a routine patrol along the asteroid belt near the Zaraki border and sold into this hellhole as sport. "Release the Zaratheus!" shrieked the announcer, a Zaraki noble whose voice resonated across the arena. The gates opposite Liam creaked open, and out stepped Nira. She towered over him, her muscular frame glinting with obsidian-colored armor. Her species, the Gorathans, were famed for their strength and discipline, an apex predator among the Zaraki's stable of fighters. Her four piercing violet eyes studied Liam with a calculated precision, and her retractable claws flexed as she gripped a massive plasma halberd. The crowd erupted into cheers at the sight of her. Nira was the Zaraki's champion, a warrior undefeated in over 200 matches. Her victories had earned her both fame and scorn, as her servitude was the only thing keeping her from freedom. And yet, her gaze lingered on Liam. He didn't charge, as most of her opponents foolishly did. He didn't show signs of trembling terror either. Instead, Liam shifted his stance, blade at the ready, and met her gaze with a resolve that startled her. The first strike came from Nira, swift and decisive. Her halberd carved an arc through the air, trailing plasma energy. Liam rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the strike, and kicked up sand to obscure her vision. It was a futile attempt, her multifaceted eyes easily adapted. She lunged again, forcing him to block. The impact sent him skidding back, his arms burning from the effort. But he held his ground. "Why do you delay the inevitable, human?" Nira growled, her voice guttural yet laced with curiosity. "Why do you fight for them?" Liam countered, dodging another strike. "You're no slave, you're their weapon." Nira hesitated for the briefest moment, her claws faltering mid-swing. The crowd jeered at her hesitation, and the Zaraki overlord's displeasure was palpable. She quickly recovered, doubling her assault with ferocious intent, yet Liam's words lingered in her mind. Their battle became a deadly dance, Liam relying on his agility and quick thinking, while Nira's strength and precision pushed him to his limits. Each clash of their weapons echoed like thunder, and blood, both red and alien, spattered the sand. But as the minutes dragged on, it became clear to both fighters. Liam wasn't trying to kill her. Pinned beneath Nira's halberd, Liam stared up at the Gorathan warrior. Her claws pressed against his throat, but she hesitated. The Zaraki demanded blood, screaming for her to finish him. "Do it," Liam whispered, his voice hoarse but unwavering. "Kill me if it means you'll earn your freedom." Nira's four eyes blinked in unison. Something about his voice, his calm acceptance of death, stirred an unfamiliar sensation within her. She glanced at the Zaraki nobles perched above the arena, their mandibles clicking impatiently. To disobey them would mean her own death. But in that moment, Nira realized that she no longer cared. With a roar, she turned her halberd toward the Zaraki announcer and hurled it. The plasma blade struck its mark, impaling the insectoid noble and silencing the crowd. Liam scrambled to his feet as chaos erupted. The other enslaved fighters in the holding pins, inspired by Nira's rebellion, broke free and stormed the arena. Nira grabbed Liam by the arm, pulling him toward the gates. "Come with me," she growled, "if you want to survive." The tunnels beneath the arena were dark and labyrinthine, but Nira navigated them with ease. Liam followed close behind, his breath ragged from the exertion. Around them, the sounds of rebellion echoed. Fighters clashing with Zaraki guards, explosions reverberating as the gladiators turned their improvised weapons on their captors. "Where are we going?" Liam asked, barely keeping up. "To freedom," Nira replied. or whatever's left of it. They emerged into a hidden chamber where a group of alien rebels was already waiting. Among them were beings of various species, scaly Threlks, towering Vakrans, and even a few Gorathans who looked to Nira with reverence. "You've done it," one of them said, a Vakran with glowing cyan eyes. "The Zaraki will fall after this." "Not yet," Nira said grimly. "This is only the beginning." As the rebels planned their next move, Liam and Nira found themselves alone for the first time since the arena. She stood against the wall, her massive frame dwarfing him even at rest. "You could have killed me," Liam said. "Why didn't you?" "I've killed enough," Nira replied, her voice quieter now. "And you were different. You didn't fight like the others." "I didn't see a monster," Liam said. "I saw someone trapped, just like me." Her violet eyes softened, and for a moment, the fierce warrior seemed almost vulnerable. But before she could reply, alarms blared through the tunnels. "They found us," Nira growled, grabbing her weapon. "Stay close." The Zaraki forces descended upon the rebels, their chittering war cries echoing through the tunnels. Liam and Nira fought side by side, their bond forged in the crucible of battle. She cleaved through enemy ranks with brutal efficiency, while Liam used his smaller size to outmaneuver their foes, striking with precision. But the Zaraki were relentless, their reinforcements seemingly endless. For every guard they cut down, 2 more took their place. "We can't hold them forever," Liam shouted, deflecting a blow. "Then we don't," Nira replied. "We take the fight to them." She pointed to a service tunnel leading upward, the path to the Zaraki command center. The Zaraki overlords hadn't anticipated a rebellion of this scale. As Liam and Nira led the charge into the command center, they encountered little resistance. The Zaraki nobles scrambled to escape, their authority crumbling under the weight of the uprising. Nira's halberd glowed with a fierce light as she confronted the Zaraki overlord. The insectoid creature clicked its mandibles in desperation, offering riches, power, and freedom if she would just stop. "I've already earned my freedom," she said, striking the final blow. As the Zaraki leader fell, the remaining guards surrendered. The arena, once a place of suffering, now belonged to the rebels. The rebellion had succeeded, but the cost was high. Many fighters had fallen, and the Zaraki Empire would not forget this humiliation. The rebels knew their victory was only the first step in a long and dangerous road. Liam stood beside Nira as the survivors gathered in the arena. Despite the horrors they had faced, a spark of hope glimmered among them. "What now?" Liam asked. Nira looked out over the crowd, her 4 violet eyes blazing with determination. "Now we fight for every world they've enslaved. Together." Liam nodded, a smile breaking through his weary expression. "Together." Word of the Zaraki arena's fall spread like a shockwave across Zeratos Prime and beyond. Rebel transmissions carried the news to countless enslaved species under Zaraki dominion. For the first time in decades, the Zaraki Empire faced a growing threat from within its own borders. Liam and Nira had become reluctant symbols of the uprising. The arena's former slaves now called them the Blades of Defiance. It was a title neither of them sought, but one they bore out of necessity. If they were going to inspire others to rise, they had to lead by example. In the days following their victory, the rebels transformed the arena into a makeshift headquarters. Fighters from different species shared resources, stories, and strategies, united by their common enemy. Despite their triumph, the group remained acutely aware of their precarious position. "The Zaraki won't stay disorganized for long," Liam said during a war council meeting. "They'll send ships, maybe an entire fleet, to crush us." Nira stood at the head of the table, her massive frame casting a long shadow over the holographic map of Zeratos Prime. "Then we don't give them time. We take the fight to them." Her plan was bold, some might say reckless. The Zaraki relied on a vast network of slave labor camps and gladiatorial arenas to maintain their dominance. By targeting these facilities, the rebels could not only free more fighters, but also weaken the Empire's industrial and military backbone. To stand any chance against the Zaraki fleet, the rebels needed ships, and lots of them. A Gorathan scout, Ryvek, brought critical intelligence about a potential ally. The Syndicate of Naltros, a group of pirate clans that operated along the Zaraki border. The Syndicate was infamous for its ruthlessness, but they shared one common hatred with the rebels, the Zaraki. Pirates? Liam asked skeptically as the group reviewed Ryvek's report. We're trusting our survival to pirates? They despise the Zaraki as much as we do, Nira replied, and they control enough ships to challenge a fleet. They also have no loyalty, Liam countered. What happens when they decide they want more than a share of the spoils? Nira's violet eyes fixed on him, her tone firm. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But right now, we don't have a choice. Nira, Liam, and a small team of rebels traveled to Naltros aboard a stolen Zaraki transport. The Syndicate's base was hidden in the swirling clouds of a gas giant, its jagged metallic spires jutting from a massive floating platform. The rebels were greeted by Razak, a cunning Syndicate leader with cybernetic enhancements that gave him a chilling edge. His glowing red eyes scanned the group as he paced around them like a predator assessing prey. You've got guts coming here, Razak said, his voice a gravelly purr. But guts won't win you a war. We're not here to beg, Nira replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. We're here to offer an alliance. Help us destroy the Zaraki, and you'll have free reign over their trade routes. Razak chuckled, though his expression remained calculating. You assume I trust you. You don't have to trust us, Liam interjected. Trust that the Zaraki will come for you eventually. If we fail, you're next. The pirate leader's cybernetic eye whirred as he studied Liam, then Nira. Finally, he grinned, revealing sharp, metallic teeth. You've got a spine, human. I like that. Fine, we'll help you for now. But cross me, and I'll sell what's left of you to the highest bidder. With the Syndicate's ships added to their fleet, the rebels launched their first major strike. A daring raid on Kalthor Station, a Zaraki stronghold that served as a hub for enslaved laborers and gladiators. The plan was risky. Syndicate frigates would engage the station's outer defenses while Nira, Liam, and a strike team infiltrated the facility to free the prisoners. As the Syndicate ships opened fire, the Zaraki scrambled to respond. The station's shields flared as plasma blasts rained down, and Zaraki fighters swarmed to intercept the attackers. Inside the station, Nira led the team through the chaos. Her plasma halberd cut through Zaraki guards with terrifying precision, while Liam provided cover fire with a stolen pulse rifle. They moved quickly, disabling security systems and unlocking cells. The sight of Nira, the Zaraki's former champion, fighting against her captors inspired the prisoners to rise. Armed with whatever they could find, the newly freed fighters joined the rebellion, turning the station into a battlefield. The raid was a success, but at a cost. Many rebels and Syndicate fighters fell in the battle, and Kalthor Station was left in ruins. Liam sat on the deck of a stolen transport, bandaging a deep gash on his arm as he watched the survivors regroup. We won, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. Nira sat beside him, her armor scarred and bloodied. This isn't about winning battles. It's about starting something they can't stop. Liam looked at her, seeing not just a warrior but a leader, a symbol of hope for countless beings who had known only suffering. And what happens when they send their fleet? When they come at us with everything they've got? Then we'll be ready, Nira said, her voice resolute, because they don't understand what they've created. They've united us. The Zaraki were not idle. Enraged by the loss of Kalthor Station, they unleashed a retaliatory campaign, deploying their most advanced warships to hunt down the rebels. The Syndicate's base on Naltros was destroyed in a surprise attack, forcing the rebels to abandon their foothold. On a desolate moon, the rebel leadership convened to plan their next move. Supplies were dwindling, morale was strained, and tensions between the Syndicate and the rebels were growing. We can't keep running, Liam said, slamming his fist on the table. We need to strike at the heart of their empire. And where exactly is that? Ryvek retorted. Their empire spans hundreds of systems. Their homeworld, Nira said, her voice cutting through the argument. We take the fight to Zeratos Prime. The room fell silent. To attack the Zaraki homeworld was unthinkable, a suicide mission. But as Nira outlined her plan, a spark of determination spread among the group. If they could cripple the Zaraki leadership, the empire would fracture. It was a gamble, but it might be their only chance to end the war. The Zaraki homeworld, Zeratos Prime, was a fortress like no other. Orbiting the planet were dozens of colossal defense stations, each armed with planet-shattering weapons. The surface was an urban sprawl of hive-like cities, interconnected by monolithic towers that disappeared into the thick, toxic atmosphere. Nira's plan was as daring as it was dangerous. Infiltrate the planetary defense grid, disable key stations, and land an assault force on the surface to target the Zaraki High Council. The operation would require precision, cunning, and more than a little luck. The rebel fleet, now bolstered by the Syndicate's remaining ships, gathered at a staging point in a neighboring system. The fighters buzzed with tension as final preparations were made. Nira walked among them, offering words of encouragement. "You've all seen what the Zaraki are capable of," she said, her voice carrying across the hangar. "You felt their cruelty, their oppression. But today, we show them what happens when the oppressed rise." Liam stood beside her, scanning the faces of their ragtag army. Every species, every being here had suffered under the Zaraki's rule. Yet despite their fear, there was a collective fire in their eyes. When Nira finished speaking, the crowd erupted in a unified cheer. The rebels were ready to fight for their freedom, or die trying. The first phase of the assault was a diversion. Syndicate frigates and rebel corvettes launched hit-and-run attacks on the outer defense stations, drawing Zaraki warships away from the primary targets. The Zaraki fell for the ruse, deploying their fleet in pursuit of the smaller, faster ships. Meanwhile, a cloaked rebel transport carrying Nira, Liam, and a small strike team approached one of the central defense stations. Their mission: disable the planetary shield generator that protected Zeratos Prime. The station's interior was a labyrinth of metal corridors, patrolled by Zaraki drones and heavily armed guards. The team moved swiftly, taking out patrols with silenced weapons and planting explosives at key points. Liam hacked into the station's control systems, bypassing layers of Zaraki security protocols. Sweat dripped down his face as he worked. "I'm in," he said finally. "Shield generator is offline." Nira activated her comm. "All units, the shield is down. Begin the assault." The rebel fleet emerged from hyperspace, pouring into the gap left by the disabled shield. Zaraki warships scrambled to respond, but the rebels had the advantage of surprise. On the planet's surface, chaos erupted as rebel dropships descended into the sprawling hive cities. Liam and Nira led one of the assault groups, cutting through Zaraki defenses as they pushed toward the central tower that housed the High Council. Explosions rocked the city as rebels and freed slaves turned the Zaraki's own weapons against them. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid stench of burning metal. Despite the initial success, the Zaraki mounted a fierce counterattack. Waves of reinforcements swarmed the rebels, their chittering war cries echoing through the city. The fighting was brutal, and casualties mounted on both sides. After hours of relentless battle, Nira, Liam, and a small group of fighters reached the entrance to the High Council's chamber. The massive doors were guarded by Zaraki elites, towering insectoid warriors clad in gleaming exoskeletal armor. Nira charged forward, her plasma halberd blazing. Liam followed, covering her with precise shots from his pulse rifle. The fight was desperate, but the rebels prevailed, cutting down the guards and breaching the council chamber. Inside, the Zaraki High Council sat on elevated thrones, their massive forms silhouetted against the glow of holographic displays. They hissed and clicked in their native tongue, their fear palpable. "You've enslaved countless worlds," Nira said, her voice cold and steady. "But your reign ends today." One of the counselors lunged forward, its claws aimed at Nira's throat. She sidestepped, delivering a devastating blow with her halberd that split the creature in two. As the remaining counselors shrieked in terror, Liam raised his weapon. "Surrender, or we'll finish what we started." The Zaraki hesitated, their mandibles clicking nervously. Finally, the lead counselor lowered its head. "We yield." The fall of Zeratos Prime sent shockwaves across the galaxy. With the High Council defeated and the central power structure in ruins, the Zaraki Empire began to crumble. Slave uprisings erupted on countless worlds, and the Zaraki war machine ground to a halt. But victory came at a cost. Many rebels had given their lives to achieve this moment, and the galaxy was left in a state of chaos. Without the Zaraki to enforce their brutal order, old rivalries and conflicts among the liberated species threatened to resurface. In the aftermath of the rebellion, Liam and Nira found themselves at a crossroads. The Zaraki were defeated, but the galaxy's future remained uncertain. As the surviving rebels gathered to discuss the next steps, Nira addressed them once more. "We fought for freedom, but freedom comes with responsibility. If we don't stand together now, everything we've fought for will be lost." Liam stepped forward. "The Zaraki are gone, but their shadow lingers. We need to rebuild, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who's suffered under their rule." The crowd murmured in agreement, their hope tempered by the challenges ahead. Together, Liam and Nira began to lay the foundation for a new alliance, a coalition of free worlds dedicated to ensuring that no empire like the Zaraki would ever rise again. As the galaxy began to heal, whispers of a new threat emerged. Zaraki loyalists, scattered but determined, were regrouping in the far reaches of space. Rumors of advanced weapons and mysterious allies spread, hinting at a dangerous resurgence. Liam and Nira stood on the bridge of their flagship, gazing out at the stars. The galaxy was free for now, but they both knew their fight was far from over. "We've won the battle," Nira said quietly, "but the war is just beginning." Liam nodded, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. "Then we'll face it, together." The fall of Zerato's Prime left an unmistakable power vacuum, and with it came the rise of opportunists and warlords across the galaxy. Though the Zaraki Empire was shattered, its remnants persisted. Disparate groups of loyalists consolidated their strength in uncharted sectors, scavenging weapons, and rallying forces for a resurgence. From the shadows, a name began to spread: General Karshak. A former Zaraki strategist and one of the few survivors of the High Council's purge, Karshak was rumored to have amassed an armada far from the reach of the rebellion's newly formed coalition. Whispers told of secret research facilities, devastating experimental technologies, and a hunger for vengeance that would not be extinguished easily. The new coalition, dubbed the Alliance of Free Worlds, had its share of struggles. Managing dozens of species with conflicting interests proved no small task. Even among the rebel leaders, tensions simmered. Syndicate members demanded control of lucrative trade routes, while former slaves argued for reparations and rebuilding efforts. Amid these disputes, Liam and Nira were called to investigate troubling reports of Zaraki activity near the galactic fringe. Several mining colonies had gone silent, their orbital relays destroyed. When a scout ship managed to transmit a fragmentary message before being obliterated, its haunting words sent a chill through the Alliance leadership. "Karshak is coming." Liam, Nira, and a small team were dispatched to the Devaris Expanse, a cluster of uncharted systems long considered barren and uninhabitable. They traveled aboard the Resolute, a sleek corvette outfitted with advanced stealth systems and bristling with weaponry. The Expanse was a desolate place, its stars dim and its planets lifeless. Yet as they approached the coordinates of the last distress signal, their scanners picked up faint energy readings, patterns too precise to be natural. "What do you think we'll find out here?" Liam asked, his eyes scanning the dark void ahead. "Trouble," Nira replied, her voice grim. "Karshak doesn't waste resources. If he's here, he's building something." As the Resolute entered orbit around a shattered moon, the truth revealed itself. Hidden within the moon's cratered surface was a massive facility, sprawling with Zaraki ships, construction platforms, and shimmering containment fields. At its center was something terrifyingly familiar: a world cracker cannon, an experimental weapon the Zaraki had only theorized during their reign. "They're not just regrouping," Liam whispered. "They're planning to wipe us out." The team's attempt to gather intelligence was cut short when the facility detected their ship. Alarms blared, and Zaraki fighters swarmed from hidden hangars. The Resolute weaved through waves of enemy fire, its stealth systems overwhelmed by the concentrated attack. "Brace for impact," shouted the pilot as the ship's shields buckled under the assault. Nira and Liam fought their way to the escape pods, their team desperately covering them. Plasma bolts lit up the cramped corridors as Zaraki drones breached the ship. One by one, their crewmates fell, buying precious seconds for their leaders to escape. As the pod launched, Nira gripped Liam's arm tightly. "They'll pay for this," she growled, her violet eyes burning with fury. From the pod, they watched helplessly as the Resolute was engulfed in a fiery explosion. Nira and Liam's pod crash-landed on the moon, far from the Zaraki facility. Disoriented but alive, they scavenged what they could and began the arduous journey toward the heart of the enemy's operations. Along the way, they encountered remnants of other resistance groups, captured beings forced into labor, their bodies broken but their spirits unyielding. One of the prisoners, a grizzled Vokran engineer named Skorvik, revealed crucial information. "Karshak's cannon isn't just for destruction," he rasped. "It's powered by something unnatural, something they found on a dead world. You destroy it, you destroy them." "What kind of weapon?" Liam asked, dread creeping into his voice. "Not a weapon," Skorvik replied. "A mind. An ancient AI older than the Zaraki themselves." Skorvik's words proved true. As Nira, Liam, and their small band of survivors infiltrated the Zaraki facility, they uncovered a chilling secret. Deep within the moon's core, suspended in a field of crackling energy, was the AI known as the Silent Mind. It was a massive, crystalline entity, its surface shimmering with countless lines of alien code. Karshak's forces had uncovered it on a forgotten planet and brought it here, binding it to the World Cracker Cannon. The AI's computational power made it capable of coordinating an entire fleet, predicting enemy movements, and amplifying the cannon's destructive potential. "It's not just a weapon," Liam muttered. "It's a god." Nira's jaw tightened. "Then we kill the god." Disabling the cannon would require severing its link to the Silent Mind, a task easier said than done. As the rebels moved deeper into the facility, they faced relentless waves of Zaraki guards and automated drones. The battle was brutal, and the cost was high. Liam managed to breach the control chamber while Nira held the line against an overwhelming enemy force. The room pulsed with energy as the Silent Mind's presence filled the air, its crystalline form glowing ominously. "You seek to destroy what you do not understand," the AI's voice echoed, resonating with an eerie calm. "Your defiance is illogical. Submit, and you may yet survive." "Not a chance," Liam snapped, overriding the AI's security protocols. As Liam worked to sever the Silent Mind's connection to the cannon, the AI unleashed a psychic assault. Memories, fears, and doubts flooded his mind, threatening to overwhelm him. But Liam fought back, focusing on the faces of those who had suffered under the Zaraki's reign, and those who still depended on him. With a final surge of effort, he activated the shutdown sequence. The Silent Mind let out a piercing, otherworldly scream as its crystalline structure began to fracture. The cannon's power core destabilized, sending shockwaves through the facility. Liam sprinted for the exit, meeting Nira just as the facility began to collapse. Together, they fought their way to a stolen Zaraki transport and escaped the moon just as it erupted in a blinding explosion. The destruction of Karshak's weapon dealt a critical blow to the Zaraki loyalists, but the fight was far from over. Scattered and desperate, the remnants of the Empire regrouped in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, where new threats awaited. Liam and Nira returned to the Alliance, their victory tempered by the knowledge of the challenges ahead. They had survived the Crucible once more, but the galaxy's fate remained uncertain. As they stood on the bridge of their new flagship, Nira turned to Liam. "We stopped a god today." Liam nodded. "But what happens when the next one rises?" Her gaze hardened. "Then we stop it too." Months passed, and Karshak's forces regrouped for one final assault. In the uncharted depths of the Vokar Nebula, the Zaraki loyalists had established their stronghold, fortified by scavenged technology and a fleet of ships bristling with experimental weapons. Karshak had survived the destruction of the moon and now led his fractured army with a singular purpose: revenge. The alliance of free worlds, still fragile but more united than ever, mobilized for what would be the decisive confrontation. Nira and Liam stood at the forefront, commanding a fleet of rebel ships, syndicate frigates, and vessels from liberated worlds. They had one goal: destroy Karshak's fleet and end the Zaraki threat once and for all. The Alliance Armada emerged from hyperspace just outside the nebula, where the Zaraki fleet awaited in grim silence. Karshak's flagship, a towering behemoth named the Revenant, loomed at the center, its spiked hull bristling with planet-killer cannons powered by remnants of the Silent Mind's technology. "This is it," Nira said over the fleet's comm channel. "The Zaraki have terrorized us for too long. Today, we finish what we started. Fight for your freedom. Fight for your worlds." The fleet erupted into cheers as the battle began. The nebula became a swirling vortex of destruction as ships exchanged fire. Plasma bolts and torpedoes lit up the void, while fighter squadrons darted between larger vessels, engaging in deadly dogfights. The Syndicate's frigates proved invaluable, their agility outmatching the bulkier Zaraki cruisers. On board the Dauntless, the Alliance's flagship, Liam coordinated the assault. "Concentrate fire on their left flank. Push them toward the nebula currents. They'll rip their engines apart." Nira, leading a strike team aboard a stolen Zaraki corvette, infiltrated the Revenant itself. Their mission: disable the flagship's core and kill Karshak. Nira and her team fought their way through the Revenant's corridors, cutting down Zaraki soldiers and drones. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid stench of burning metal. At last, they reached the command bridge, where Karshak awaited them. The Zaraki general was a terrifying sight. His once pristine carapace was scarred and augmented with cybernetic implants. His mandibles clicked as he rose to his full height, towering over Nira. "You," he hissed, "the traitor and the human. Do you think you've won?" "We've already won," Nira replied, gripping her plasma halberd tightly. "You just don't know it yet." Karshak lunged, his claws gleaming with energy. The fight was brutal, a clash of raw power and precise skill. Nira's halberd struck true, severing one of Karshak's limbs, but he retaliated with a devastating blow that sent her sprawling. Liam, covering her from the rear, fired a plasma shot that pierced Karshak's chest. The Zaraki staggered, ichor spilling from his wounds, but he refused to fall. "You've unleashed chaos," Karshak snarled. "Without us, the galaxy will devour itself." "Then we'll build something better," Nira said, delivering the killing blow. Her halberd pierced his core, and Karshak collapsed, his body twitching before falling still. With Karshak dead, Nira and Liam rushed to the ship's reactor. Zaraki engineers scrambled to stop them, but the strike team fought their way through and planted charges on the core. As the timer ticked down, they sprinted to the hangar, barely escaping aboard their corvette before the Revenant erupted in a massive explosion. The shockwave rippled through the nebula, and the Zaraki fleet, leaderless and demoralized, crumbled under the Alliance's assault. One by one, their ships were destroyed or forced to surrender. The victory at the Vokar Nebula marked the end of the Zaraki Empire. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was free from their tyranny. The Alliance of Free Worlds, forged in the fires of rebellion, became a beacon of hope and cooperation among the liberated species. On the day of the formal signing of the Galactic Concord, leaders from across the galaxy gathered to honor those who had fought and fallen. Nira stood at the forefront, her towering presence a symbol of strength and resilience. Liam, ever at her side, looked out at the sea of faces and felt a rare, deep sense of peace. As the ceremony concluded, Nira turned to Liam. "It's over." "For now," Liam said, smiling. "But we've got a galaxy to rebuild." She nodded, her violet eyes glowing softly. "And this time, we do it together." Years later, the Alliance of Free Worlds had transformed into a thriving coalition of planets, each contributing to a galaxy built on unity rather than oppression. Nira became a revered leader, a voice of wisdom and strength. Liam, ever the strategist, helped shape the Alliance's policies, ensuring peace and fairness for all. But even in this new age, there were whispers of old enemies, forgotten secrets, and the distant echoes of ancient powers waiting in the shadows. As Nira and Liam stood together on the bridge of a new exploration vessel, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars, she smiled faintly. "What do you think is out there?" she asked. "Adventure," Liam replied. "And maybe a little trouble." "Good," she said, gripping her blade. "I was starting to get bored." Together, they stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges awaited among the stars.